The bullpen coming into the season was listed as the top bullpen across Major League Baseball, according to, different fan graphs, different statistics that they were projected to be the top. And of course, we saw for overall injury updates. And I'll start with Taijuan Walker, even though we're talking bullpen. Let me start there actually, because we do have the official update.
Take your time, Taijuan.
Let's talk pitching arms in general. So Taijuan Walker did have his first rehab start with Class A Clearwater. That was last night. Pitched 4 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 runs, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts. His 4-seam fastball averaged about 91 miles per hour. And the expectation for Taijuan is that he will return back early May, because for Taijuan Walker, Rob really wants to make sure that he can reach 100 plus pitches during his rehab assignment, but also wants to continue increasing him on 15 pitch increments. So every start, he's going to get 15 more pitches. He started off around 60 pitches and he's been progressing from there. So because of that timeline, it's going to take him, he starts once every 5 days. It's going to essentially take him till early May. Switching over to the bullpen, because Taijuan, definitely take your time.
Your time.
Orion, on the other hand, and actually there's some other great updates. You don't hear about Dylan Covey and Michael Rucker and Luis Ortiz? No, just kidding.
No.
Orion.
I mean, I want to hear about Dylan Covey. I think Dylan Covey's an important piece to this bullpen.
Well, Dylan Covey is scheduled to throw off. He was scheduled to throw off the mound on April 6th. He did do that in Clearwater, and then that was his first time taking the mound since March 1st. So Dylan Covey is on the path with that right shoulder strain. His actual return is to be determined. So we're not really sure the timeline.
Like we were talking about who gets moved in the event of, well, not in the event when Orion Kirkering does return.
On Saturday, is it Nelson or is it Dickie Beans?
Both of them are gone eventually once Covey returns, because Covey's going to take Nelson's spot. It's just a matter of who do you prefer in the intermediate time frame before Covey returns.
Yeah. Well,
Dickie Beans is probably going to go, I think.
Yeah, it's our buddy Pinto. So for Orion, his timeline is still on track for April 14th. He is continuing his rehab assignments. He did have, what's today? I always forget the day. Today's the 12th. So he did have his rehab assignment continuing with Single A Clearwater. He is expected to rejoin the Phillies April 14th. So he should be rounding out the weekend at Citizens Bank Park, returning back home. It's a great time because the Phillies are on a nice 10-game homestand that started last night. So he'll be able to, I feel like even returning back at home is an extra bonus versus like returning back on the road or something like that. So Orion with that right forearm strain because that's also what was listed for him, even though it was an illness, is expected to be back and working back from his fugazi.
Yeah, he touched, I think he hit 98.9 miles an hour last night. So the velocity's there. 3 strikeouts, 3 batters. This kid doesn't have to prove anything else down in AAA.
No.
As long as the Phillies feel like his arm is up to, strength here. And, we're going to see him on Saturday. And he's going to add to this bullpen. I saw somebody in the chat earlier. I forget who it was. It might have been John Lemmerman there asking about the bullpen, saying, like, has the great starting pitching overshadowed the bullpen some, I think was his point. Yeah, it probably has. But like Yunior Marte, we have his stats combined this year. He's been really, really good. Sir Anthony's been like the weak spot. But for the most part, Matt Strom has been really good. Jeff Hoffman has been really good. And Jose Alvarado has been really good outside of that first game, the opener. So if you add Orion to that mix and you talk about Dylan Covey eventually replacing Nick Nelson, and then, of course, Soto as well, like all of a sudden, you got a stable of really nice arms, a good amount of a good lefty-righty split up, and you got guys with stuff. Like Yunior Marte's got stuff. So if these are your like 6th inning, middle inning type of guys, you got a really good bullpen on your hands. And, of course, you're still going to have the option to add to it at the trade deadline if somebody gets hurt. So the starting pitcher probably has overshadowed the bullpen some. But here's Yunior Marte's numbers combined in spring and the regular season so far. It's 16.2 innings, 5 hits allowed, 0 runs, 7 walks, which is a little high.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to nitpick when you have 14 Ks and a 0 earned run average. So Yunior Marte has been really, really good and maybe not talked about, but I think he's starting to get on people's radars as like, Wow, I might be able to trust you more than Sir Anthony right now.
Yeah, actually, it is looking that way. And I know it is interesting because we've been harping on the bullpen. Obviously, there have definitely been games that have been lost down the stretch. And even the question of what's the closer situation going to look like? Are you going to package it with a Jose and Jeff? Are you going to make, have a makeshift instead of a traditional closer? But overall for the bullpen, got to give them credit where credit is due. They also have been making progress. Listen, it wasn't a good start for the bullpen, but it's been better lately. And Yunior Marte is one of those guys that you've seen coming into his own. I know in the chat you guys are mentioning him. John, you're saying Marte taking the Hoffman leap this season. When you have a chance, especially for, I feel like a bullpen or even a starting pitcher is just as important with the mental side of, like Christopher Sanchez talked about for his off season. He really felt this was the first year this season coming in. He really felt that feeling of belonging. And you wonder how much like the Yunior Martes also have had that same sort of feeling of like, okay, now I understand my role. I understand, what's been said to me, and now I don't have to overthink it. I can just execute. I can just go out there and focus on my inning, focus on one pitch at a time, and just not having to overthink things or, whatever it may be. It's so mental. So I do feel like Yunior Marte is one of those sleepers to keep an eye on, that now when you do get an Orion Kirkering back this Sunday, when you continue to get Jeff and Jose pitching well, like these types of sleepers are pleasant surprises that only help bolster the bullpen to maybe actually be the top in the league.
Yeah, and I think the most encouraging part for, not only this year, but going forward in what Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fold and Preston Mattingly have done is the majority of these guys are off the scrap heap.
Right.
They've shown a real ability to go out there and get guys with velocity and get guys with stuff and mold them into a pretty damn good bullpen. Because you remember, Yunior Marte you got from the San Francisco Giants for Eric Miller. Gregory Soto you got for Vierling and Maton. Jose Alvarado you got for a bag of baseballs from the Tampa Bay organization. Jeff Hoffman was off the scrap sheet heap. So, like, you've now, like, none of these are big, sexy, splashy moves at the time. But the Phillies and Caleb Cotham, look, protect that man at all costs, I think, is the point here. The Phillies and him have shown this really, really good ability to build a bullpen out of journeyman guys with stuff that never really put it together. And if you add Spencer Turnbull,
I was going to say,
if we get a look at him tonight and he has another good game, like, Caleb Cotham, pay that man his money and keep him here, because remember, like in the dog days of the offseason, there was that article that came out that said Preston Mattingly and Caleb Cotham were two guys that are highly regarded around baseball. You probably want to protect them because, this is really impressive what they've done with this bullpen. And I think it's encouraging for the future and sustainability and longevity of this. I think it's a real credit to the front office of the Phillies for what they've done. I'm not used to this as a Phillies fan.